unmuted.
Okay, and we are live. The meeting of the City of Socorro City Council is set to begin. First and foremost, the City of Socorro would like to thank everyone and ask for your patience during this difficult time that we have been presented with. Everyone, please remember to silence any electronics to avoid sound interruption. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated. Any violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. In accordance with Section 418.016 of the Texas Government Code and by order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City Council of the City of Socorro will broadcast the meeting scheduled today, May 21st, 2020 at 6 p.m. from City Hall chambers located at 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, via telephone conference and live stream in order to advance the public health goal and practice social distancing to slow the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. The public that signed up and any presenters will be called upon by the presiding officer during the meeting to speak during the public comment or their agenda item during the meeting following Government Code 551.042. La reunión del Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro está por comenzar. Primeramente queremos darles las gracias y pedimos su paciencia durante estos momentos críticos que enfrentamos. Favor de poner en silencio todo equipo electrónico para evitar interrupción de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. A quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada será desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. De acuerdo con sección 418.016 del Código del Gobierno de Texas y por la orden de la Oficina del Gobernador, anunciada el 16 de marzo de 2020, el Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro transmitirá la reunión hoy 21 de mayo de 2020 a las 6 p.m. desde la sala del Concilio localizada en 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, por medio de teléfono y será transmitida en vivo para tomar medidas preventivas y para prevenir la propagación de la enfermedad del virus corona COVID-19 a los demás y por la seguridad del público. El público y los presentadores serán anunciados por el oficial conduciendo la reunión para poder hablar durante la sección de comentario público o después de la discusión del artículo de la agenda por cual se apuntaron siguiendo las reglas del gobierno 551.042.
6:06, the meeting is now called to order. Ms. Rodarte, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
René Rodríguez,
Here.
Cesar Nevares,
Here.
Ralph Duran, Ralph Duran,
Can you hear me?
now I could, thank you.
I'm here.
Mayor Elia Garcia,
Here.
Victor Perez,
here,
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here. Item number 4, public comment.
We have no speakers for public comment, Mayor.
Okay. Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
motion made,
Second.
René Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
aye,
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here. At this time, would somebody entertain a motion to move items number 16 and 17 up next?
So moved.
second,
René Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 16.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We do have Mr. Jesus Chaides here that Mr. Rene Rodriguez wants to appoint to the Building and Standards Commission. If we can have a motion to approve with the swearing in, we can add that to the motion.
Approve?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Welcome on board, Mr. Chaitis. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chaides, would you please raise your right hand? We can go ahead and unmute Mr. Chaides. You're gonna repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jesus Chaitis,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear and affirm
that I have not directly or indirectly
that I have not directly or
paid,
indirectly
offered,
paid, offered,
promised to pay,
promised to pay,
contributed, or promised to contribute
attributed, or promised to
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promise any public or employment
or promise any public or employment
as reward,
as
reward
reward
to secure my appointment
to secure my appointment
or confirmation thereof.
or confirmation thereof.
And then there's one more. It's going to be the oath. I state your name.
I, Jesus Chaitis,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties
of
Sorry.
the office
of the office
of the Commission
of the Commission
of the City of Socorro, Texas,
of the City of Socorro, Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to my best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state.
and of the state.
Going back to the regular agenda,
Mayor,
May,
Ms. Walker?
we did skip item number 5. If we can go back to the presentation. It was before consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and,
Item number 5?
item number 5, update on the City of Socorro's COVID-19 response, expense to date, and projected budget.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator for the City of Socorro. Ms. Mayela, if you can allow me to share my screen.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Also, you guys, we're not live. It's showing last meeting. It's not showing this meeting going on right now.
It's a new link, ma'am, and it's up on the online. Mr. Esteban is saying you're not clicking on the right link.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, it does say, oh, okay, gotcha.
Miss Alejandra, can you try again?
Okay, there it is. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, my name is Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator, and I was asked to provide a brief update on our COVID-19 expenses to date, and update you on some of the funding sources that are available through the federal and state government, and some new information that we've received from the state. So firstly, I'd like to start with a timeline, just to explain how these events fall into place. So on March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a worldwide pandemic. On March 13th, President Trump issued a declaration of disaster. And then on the same day, Governor Abbott issued a major disaster declaration for Texas. On the local level, El Paso County also issued a declaration of local disaster. And that's also the date that we had our first COVID expense. A few days later, the city of Socorro followed with a local declaration of disaster on March 16th. And then on March 27th is when the first tranche of funds, I believe it was about $2 trillion, were approved at the federal level through the CARES Act. Through that CARES Act, cities and counties above 500,000 population received a direct allocation from the U.S. Treasury. So as an example, the city of El Paso received 119 million direct allocation, and El Paso County received a $27 million direct allocation. And then of course the states received their own allocation. At that time, the state of Texas received approximately $8 billion allocation. And then most recently on May 11th, a few days ago, Governor Abbott issued a plan for distributing $1.85 billion to counties and each of the cities within those counties that did not receive a direct allocation previously. So I'll explain what that means a little bit further. So based on population, and again, this is a perfect example of why participating in the census matters. Based on our population in the state, as represented in the census, Texas received an $11.2 billion allocation from the CARES Act. Of those $11.2 billion, the CARES Act stated that 45% of those $11.2 billion had to be made available to local governments. And so initially, the cities that had a population of 500,000 residents or more received that direct allocation from the U.S. Treasury. Again, City of El Paso received 119 million, County of El Paso received 27 million. And so the state of Texas put together a plan to distribute further funding to other counties and cities that did not receive a direct allocation at that time. So now on May 11th, Governor Abbott did release a letter stating how those $1.85 billion would be made available. And the letter states that this funding would be made available at a rate of $55 per capita. That's per person living in those counties and cities below 500,000 population that did not receive a direct allocation. As an example, I've put two examples in those yellow boxes. Parker Heights is allocated a $1.8 million allocation based on its population of 32,000 residents. And then Texarkana, Texas, has a $2.1 million allocation through this new plan based on their population of 38,000 residents. Now, because our county already received a direct allocation of $27 million, as stated previously, the city of Socorro is not eligible to receive that $55 per capita allocation that the governor released on May 11th. And so to give you a brief update on the expenses that we've incurred so far, as of from March 13th, which was our first day that we incurred a COVID-related expense, to May 17th, we have spent approximately $83,869. 51,000 of those are related to personal protective equipment for our staff, disinfectant supplies, and disinfection services for all of our administrative buildings and places where the public comes in. And then $31,000 were related to payroll expenses, which include wages, overtime, and hazard pay for personnel that is directly working on COVID-19 related tasks. And so briefly, to provide a projective number for the COVID-19 expenses from now to the next 12 months was a little bit difficult because there are so many variables that are changing. The situation is very fluid. And so we have to consider a few variables before we can put a number to those expected costs. Firstly, we don't know when the COVID-19 positive cases will start to decline in El Paso County. Currently, we are still increasing in the number of COVID-19 cases on a daily basis. And then secondly, Governor Abbott does have a Texas reopening plan that is coming into phases. As we start to reopen the states and more people go back to work, more people go out into the public spaces, that may lead to an increase in cases and prolong the need for COVID-19 related expenses. There's also, as we start reopening our businesses, there may be an increased demand for PPE from businesses reopening that may drive up the cost of personal protective equipment. And then we don't know if there could be a potential second wave of COVID-19 cases in the fall. So keeping all of those variables in mind, we have a projected expenses that may range from $200,000 to $900,000 in the next months, to include PPE, disinfectant supplies, and disinfection services, and then costs related to personnel responding to the COVID-19 emergency. In that 200,000 to 900,000 range, I know it's a big range, but the situation may be much better in June, and so that may cap our expenses at $200,000, or it may extend through the fall, possibly into 2021. So there's a lot of variables to consider here. And that is it. I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Mayor,
Ms. Ugarte?
based on the presentation, I do feel that we need to request from the county, since they have received these $27 million of what is owed, I guess, to us, because we would be able to qualify or apply for this type of funding if they wouldn't have received the funding for the county cities. I think that we do qualify, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alejandra, it's $1.8 million per capita.
That's $55 per capita. So that's per person living here. For us, our population is around 33,000. So that would be about $1.8 million.
And if not the $1.8 million, at least the $900,000 that we believe that we're going to spend from here to the end of this COVID-19 situation.
Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, okay. Yeah, we're not gonna be eligible for that funding. I understand that, Congresswoman, Mrs. Escobar asked funding for small municipalities. But since the money is already given out, we're not gonna be able to wait till the third phase or the third, stimulus that they want to give out. I think that we should just ask for $1 million, because they'll still keep 800,000 of rightfully our portion. So I think that if we go out there, do we need an agenda item to request that funding of $1 million? And if council, you know, wants, then we could just ask for the full amount. I don't know, but I'd rather have more money than we're might be using or not. And then if we have to return it, we'll return it. But I think that, fair is fair, and, everybody's in need. And I think that it's very unfair that El Paso took the major over $100 million, and the county took $27 million. And what about Socorro, Anthony, Clint, San Elizario, Horizon? Believe it or not, I have to throw them in there. Um, but what about us? We just like them. We're in the same predicament. I think that uh, I guess legal, since it's just here, I don't know if we have to set something in motion, or can just administration just go out there and request that funding for us.
Mayor.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Rodriguez. It's posted as an update. If you want to do that, you would need a different agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Perez?
I think that we should, well, two things. Since it's just a discussion, I think we should post it as an agenda item so that there's the full weight of the council behind the request instead of staff, for one. Two, if the money is there and it's for public use for us to use, then there's no shame in asking for the full amount, that so because it will be put to good use either way.
Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
So with that, I guess just bring up an agenda item, and we'll go from there.
We will do that at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
Should we wait till the next meeting, or should we do this as an emergency and do a special meeting? Mr. Martinez, Ms. Rodarte?
I mean, that's completely up to you all.
Yeah, I don't think it meets, well, you don't need to make it an emergency item. You can certainly call a special meeting, yes.
Mr. Perez?
If it's going to be a special meeting, all I request is after 5 o'clock, because I'm still, I know that I need to be on the clock until 5.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I agree with Mr. Perez. I agree with Villalobos. We need to do this as soon as possible. The reason why is because the county has meetings during the day on Mondays. So, and they're talking about that exactly. And they're trying to already use that funding and put it in their own budget, and they're already going to allocate that funding. So I guess it's something that we need to address as soon as possible, so that we can send out the proper documentation to let them know that we are seeking our share of the money that was given to them by the federal government.
In order to meet the posting requirements, we would have to hold the meeting on Tuesday.
Let's do it
We can post it tomorrow.
Thank you.
after 5.
Yes.
Correct. At 6 o'clock. We'll do it at 6 o'clock
Perfect.
for a Tuesday meeting.
Moving on to item number 8. Public hearing of an ordinance for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of tracks 2, 3, 4, 7, 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 10, 11, 12A, 13, 13A, 13A2, 14, and 14A, Block 5 Socorro Grant for a new development.
Mayor, and
Mr.
correct
Baker?
me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think that the developer or the applicant has asked for a postponing of this item. Joe or Mike?
Yes, that's correct. We received a petition from the applicant requesting to postpone items number 8 and 9.
Well, at this time, I'll entertain the motion to postpone.
Second.
Jim, can we do this during public hearing, or does it have to go to item number 9?
I couldn't quite hear the question. Can you say that again?
Can they postpone the item during the public hearing, or do they have to move to item number 9?
Hello. Sorry, having trouble getting in. Yeah, yes, I think you should be. You're on item 8. If you're going to take action on number 9, you should please call number 9.
Can we postpone the public hearing as well, or can we just postpone number 9
You can postpone them both.
on item number 9?
Yes, but I would call number 9 before you postpone it.
All right. Item number 9, second reading and adoption of an ordinance for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of tracts 2, 3, 4, 7, 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 10, 11, 12A, 13, 13A, 13A2, 14, and 14A, Block 5 Socorro Grant for a new development.
I'll make a motion to postpone the public hearing on item number 8 as well as item number 9, second reading and adoption, for the reasons that the developer is requesting a postponement of this item.
Okay.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 10, discussion and action to approve a resolution 618 authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Office of the Governor, Criminal Justice Division, fiscal year 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator. This is a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. This is through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. We are requesting $108,000 approximately for COVID-19 related expenses, including PPE, disinfectant, and sanitizing supplies, and then screening equipment to reduce and prevent further cases in Socorro, Texas. This application does require a resolution in order to submit. And I don't know if you have any questions. There is no match requirement for this application.
Rene Rod
Mr. Perez?
Very quickly, so if the resolution is already drafted, or how would that, or would this be part of the approval?
Yes, the resolution is already included in the backup. And the resolution states that you are approving the submission of the grant application. And then that there's some general stipulations, such as agreeing to return funds if they are misused. And this is part of the language that is included in every resolution, every application that we submit through the Office of the Governors. And there it is.
I apologize, I didn't scroll down enough, far down enough on my packet. Sorry.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 11, discussion and action on approving a memorandum of understanding with the El Paso Sheriff's Office for narcotic destruction.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. David Burton, Chief of Police. So we have several years of narcotics that we have to dispose of, as well as some new product that's continually coming into the police department. And we're not allowed to go out back and bury it. We're not allowed to burn it ourselves. So we do have to have an incinerator that's EPA approved. The Sheriff's Department has one. Other police departments in the area do business with the sheriff. This agreement would run from June of this year until September of next year for a period of 3 years. It would re-up every year automatically unless we chose to cancel it. And the charge on this is $1.50 a pound.
Rene Rod
Okay.
Ms. Villalobos?
Sorry. So how many pounds are we talking about? Or cost? Have you analyzed what the cost would be?
So, yeah,
Having it
yeah.
versus outsourcing it, right?
Yeah, so the next closest incinerator for us would be Midland. So we'd have to travel that far to get this done. We would want to use a law enforcement incinerator as opposed to a private contractor just for control purposes as far as disposing of evidence. So this is the closest one in our backyard. The other alternative would be to purchase our own, which would be very expensive, and we'd have to go through the EPA requirements for it. But right now, we're approximating that we have somewhere around 2,000 pounds based on old and new product that we have to get rid of. And that comes from one of our old evidence containers that we're going to be removing anyway as part of our move to the new facility.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Chief. I don't believe that because of past experiences here in the city of Socorro, we should go or even think or consider doing it ourselves. I think that the MOU is great for us because that way we can clean ourselves after and say, you know what, it's done. The sheriff's department took care of it, and that's it. And we don't run the risk of people saying other stuff. So I think this is a great thing. We will continue to hopefully use their services and move on.
Mayor,
Ms.
to
Galante?
to answer Ms. Colon Villalobos' question is, the cost is $1.25. So for 2,000 pounds, it would be about $2,500 that the city would spend in getting this done.
Okay.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I know you mentioned that it's pounds and evidence, correct? Important evidence that was used in court already, and it's been discharged, dismissed. You don't need it anymore. That's what we're trying to get rid of, correct?
That is correct, ma'am. So these are cases that have already been adjudicated, but the evidence is still left in our care, and obviously we're not going to turn it back to the owner, the previous owner. So then we're responsible for destroying it.
And one more question. We're going to write a contract with the sheriff's department, and in that contract, is there any language that states that they are responsible for any leaks or anything that after it leaves our facility and turned over to their facility?
So in law enforcement, there's what they call chain of custody. So we will sign it over to them, and that at that point, that removes us from any responsibility as far as the narcotics. Once the chain of custody is taken care of, that department or that officer who's receiving it from the first one is then responsible for it.
The chief's right.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Rene Rodriguez?
And it's there in the contract, part of the backup, the last item C. The SPD will maintain custody of the narcotics throughout the burn, and thus the SPD agents will remain at the incinerator facility until all the narcotics are destroyed.
That is correct. We would stay on scene until such time as our evidence is destroyed, yes.
Rene Rodriguez is absent.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colon Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 12, discussion and action on the plat approval for Carrasco subdivision, being a portion of Tract 14B and Tract 2A, Block 1, Socorro Grant, located at 725 Anderson Road.
Give me a minute. I'm just looking at something.
Mr. Perez?
If I see it correctly, this is in our ETJ or not?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Joe Terrazas, Planning and Zoning Department. This property, there's not a lot going on. It's just a lot split. It's inside the city limits. It's on the south part of Socorro. This property is an agricultural property that is 6 acres. The owner wants to subdivide it. Lot 1 would have 5 acres. Lot 2 would have 1 acre. This is the preliminary plat, the one you see on the screen. And he's currently building his house in lot 1. Lot 1 is the larger part. Lot 2, he wants to dedicate it or give it away to one of his children in the future. That's the smaller part that you see on the corner.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I just wanted to make sure that it was on ours because Anderson is divided on our property, correct? Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I can share the screen so I can show you exactly the location.
Yes, sir, please do. Do we have a speaker?
So this is North Loop.
Mhm.
There's currently a subdivision under construction in the corner. And then right here, this is where the land is located. You want to subdivide the land to separate 1 acre like this so that his children can build a house here in the future, sometime in the future.
Well, not exactly like that, right? Because you're right.
No,
in the
no,
road.
of course, this is just approximately, it's not accurate.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mayor, we have a speaker for this item. Edgar Carrasco.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. This is Edgar Carrasco. I currently don't have any comments unless you guys have any questions. Hello?
Rene Rodriguez.
Mr. Carrasco, I don't think that council has any questions. They're going to approve your item. They just have to take the vote. Thank you for calling in.
Oh,
Just to reiterate, this is the agenda item that I made the motion to approve. So aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 13, discussion and action on the preliminary plat approval for Baba Section 1 subdivision, being a portion of the OA Danielson Survey number 316 in El Paso County, Texas.
Do we have motion?
Could we see the portion, please, Mr. Joe?
Yes, so this subdivision, this is a minor plat. This one is outside the city limit. It's on the northern part, I-10, next to Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. This is the entire track, 4B. And this is how they want to subdivide it. The reason they want to do this is because they want to develop this little area here. And lines that I put in the middle, this is just to show you how they're proposing to subdivide the track. This will be a private road, and this lot in the middle will be a pond. This will be a lot, another one, and one by I-10.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Villalobos?
Joe, can you show me how they're gonna connect to I-10?
They're actually abutting gateway. There's gonna be a driveway here. So, and there's gonna be another access point on this side towards Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. So as you can see, there's gonna be two connection points, one here and one here.
And who's responsible for that driveway and connection?
It's gonna,
Once it's developed?
it's gonna be the owner of the property because it's gonna be a private road. The city
Okay.
doesn't have to maintain it.
Gotcha. All righty, that was my question. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
Joe, regarding that arroyo that's going through there, is that gonna affect, is this property gonna be adding any water to that arroyo?
No, sir, the land is gonna be improved. They already submitted some improvement plans. As you can see, there's an arroyo because there's some culverts that are crossing the I-10.
Mhm.
I don't know if you can see them there.
Yeah.
But the arroyo is not gonna be intercepted. It's gonna be allowed to continue to flow in a controlled manner. So it's not gonna be wiggly the way you show it. You see it here, it's gonna be in a straight line like this and then going down.
But they are going to line it, or is it just gonna be,
Yes, it's gonna be concrete box culverts
okay?
and it's gonna be underground.
And that, but I mean, what they're proposing will be enough to handle the amount of water that's gonna be coming through there?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Mayor, and we have a speaker for this item, Roberto Romero.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Robert Romero with TRE and Associates, and I'm willing to entertain any questions you may have at this time.
I have one question.
Mr. Duran?
With regards to they're gonna box in that arroyo. When you concrete line it, you're gonna make the water go a little bit faster. What do you have in plans for slowing the water down once it leaves this property? Because right now you have it's a dirt arroyo, so there's, the ground is gonna absorb some of that water. Whereas now it's gonna be concrete lines, so when the water comes through there, it's gonna be coming pretty fast. How do you plan on, how do you plan on stopping the flow at the other end? Or slowing it down?
Mr. Duran, yes, Mr. Duran, thank you. That's a great question, actually. Thank you for asking. We are proposing underground box culverts. In addition to that, I do want to add that we're proposing a pond that will retain all the developed runoff from this development. The box culverts are only routing the historic flow past the property underneath underneath the ground. But to answer your question, at the exit of the culvert at the discharge, we are proposing gabion structures to mitigate that flow and those velocities. What we've done is provided all those improvements to the city of Socorro for review. So we are proposing dissipation energy devices at the end of the box culvert to slow down the flow. Thank you. That was a great question.
René Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 14, discussion and action to allocate $1,500 for improvements on Varela subdivision once right-of-way has been dedicated or acquired for accessibility and mobility.
Goodbye.
Council.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I put this item because we already put it and we already said take every measure possible so that we can't acquire this road, and then we can give access to the residents in Varela. But we've seen in the past that after that process is done, then it comes back to us, and then we do another process, and then so forth and so forth. So my thing is just, I just want to cut the red tape and say that once we already acquire the right of way, that we can already start working on it and just put $1,500 aside so that they can at least access it immediately. Because after that, we still have to do the the uh, the engineering for the streets and the sidewalks and so forth. So I'm just saying that just so we can shorten the time it would take for these people to use that road, it'll just be just to put the necessary base on it so that they can drive uh, in that road and just have that access. So that once we already do, the city does its part, and we acquire the street, then they could just put that so that they can have accessibility, and also for the emergency services and stuff. So that this is all it is. It's just for them to be able to access it as soon as possible.
Ms. Villalobos?
And so the 1,500 would go for like paving of the dirt road? Is that what we're?
Not
looking-
oh, sorry, Ms. Villalobos. It's because there's a little it's a little dip. So basically, if you come down, it's got a little dip, and so we're talking about maybe 5 feet or so in depth. So all we're saying is that they can't access it. So what we want is just to be able to put base, which is what goes underneath the pavement. It's strong enough so that people can just drive to it. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
A temporary, access.
Oh, thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Rene Rodriguez?
Mayor?
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and council, one thing I would advise is, and I think Mr. Rodriguez recited this, I wasn't sure that my signal broke up for a minute. It's permissible as long as whatever land is improved, it's public land, it's owned by the city. It doesn't have to be now, it's even when it is spent, when monies are spent to improve, it needs to be owned by the city.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes, and excuse the honking, somebody graduated.
Oh, nice.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Item number 15, discussion and action to consider adoption of a written charge stating the basis for removal of Board of Adjustment Commissioner Juan Castañeda and direct city attorney to prepare the written charge.
Make a motion to approve. I believe that Mr. Castañeda is unable to attend, and therefore, I'm moving forward with removal so I can replace him.
Second.
Mr. Duran?
Has anybody have you contacted Mr. Castañeda to see if he cannot make the meetings, then ask him if he would resign?
No answer.
No answer from you or no answer from him?
No answer from him.
Ms. Villalobos?
So you've contacted him, Mr. Rodriguez, or the staff, or both?
I know I did when I was informed that he hasn't been showing up. So I'm pretty sure that because staff made me aware, I'm pretty sure that administration has tried to get in contact with him as well.
So we have made contact several occasions. Every time we have a Board of Adjustment meeting, we try to get a hold of him. Sometimes he does answer and he says he's gonna show up. It seems like he forgets and fails to show up to the meeting, so leaving us without quorum. We haven't contacted him regarding this charge, and that's just because it would seem that we were already wanting to discharge him without council's approval.
Right. All right, I'm sorry, I have one more question. I don't remember. Do they have I want to say expiration date, but are they appointed for a number, like 2 years, and then they need to be reappointed or a different, I can't remember right now if that's what the charter says.
So every commission is different. Some of them are appointed for 3 years, some for 4. It just depends. Normally, they change once council changes during election time because they want to bring their own board members or commission members to these commissions and boards. But
Gotcha,
if no one changes, then they remain the same.
gotcha.
Mr. Duran?
When is his term up?
Ms. Olivia?
December of this year, Mr. Duran,
That was
this
December
year.
of this year. Yes.
December 2020. Rene Rodriguez?
Yes, I have another question.
Ms. Villalobos?
Um, is there a procedure of removing, and have we done every, in other words, a written letter, not just a phone call? I agree with you, Mr. Rodriguez. I just want to make sure we're not doing nothing, uh, we're not cutting corners or forgetting to follow the proper steps and then having to add him back on.
No, ma'am. This is why we're bringing the written charge because that's what's required. Once you approve this item, then we will move forward with a letter making him aware. Then you will have a public hearing that he can come in and say, no, I don't want to be removed. I want to continue on. And at that point, you can all make a decision whether he can continue or not, or he doesn't show up and we're able to remove him. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, ma'am, that's it precisely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, and since he is my appointee, you know, I can remove him. So, but we are doing every step that is required for his removal. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe, you know, he's got personal issues or is going through something, but he's not responsive. So therefore, our commissions need to move on. Our commissions need to have commissioners that are going to be able to take everything that comes to their meetings. And if you can't show up, then we should have an issue. So this is not just gone for one meeting. I mean, this is for several meetings. It's not like I'm just out of the blue today. I didn't feel like it. This was something that has to be done because it's on multiple occasions.
Ms. Villalobos?
And just to add to your, you just mentioned you appointed him and you can have him removed, but you still, just to make sure that we know the rules and that we're saying the correct stuff online, is you still have to go through the motion of council to be able to, you just can't go in there and remove him. You can request, right? That's what you were trying to say?
That's correct.
Okay, alrighty, thank you for the clarification.
Rene Rodriguez?
With a heavy heart, yes.
Cesar Nevares? Mr. Nevares? Is absent. Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Item number 18, discussion and action on charter amendments, Articles 3, Section 3.07 through Section 3.16.
Mayor, I would like to see if we can go to item 17. I know Mr. Dominguez isn't here present, but if we can approve the item and then swear him in between now and next Thursday, because we have a sense of urgency for the Board of Adjustments to have a meeting, and we do need this candidate to be present in order to do so. So if you can approve appointing them, and then we would go through the motions on swearing him in and making sure he completes the paperwork so we can have him attend our next meeting next Thursday.
Perfect. Item number 17, discussion and action to appoint Jorge Dominguez to the Board of Adjustment, Place 4.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Villalobos?
Is he aware that he was going to be appointed today?
Yes, ma'am. Just like Mr. Chaides, we called him, we sent him an email with the information he had stated he would be present. Unfortunately, I don't know if something occurred that didn't allow him to, but he did seem encouraged and wanting to do so. That's why I feel we should move forward. And then we will go through the other motions just to make sure that he's sworn in and is able to attend the meeting on Thursday.
Okay. Second. I mean,
Mr.
yeah.
Rodriguez?
Ms. Villalobos, and just to let you know, we have done this before where we approve and then when they come in, we swear them in the city. So, I mean, this has been done before.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares. Mr. Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Oh, now we lost Mr. Perez?
Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez is absent, and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 18, discussion and action on charter amendments, Article 3, Section 3.07 through Section 3.16.
Mayor and Council, at our last meeting, not our last meeting, but the meeting prior to this, I do know that you all directed us to make the changes that you all had recommended for your review, and also to provide you some verbiage on the interfering with staff. And everything highlighted in yellow is what we've corrected and added to that section. And also in the yellow, you'll see the type of statements that staff is recommending to council. However, it's up to you all how you want to proceed. And then we also added the new sections that haven't been reviewed and you were all going to review just so we wouldn't lose time.
Ms. Rodarte?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess just to ease I know this is nerve wracking that we approve these things, but we're gonna have the opportunity, once we've gone through the whole city charter, to make some corrections, correct?
Oh, yes. So right now, we're just trying to see what changes you're wanting to make. Once we're done with the whole document, we will bring it back. And we have to identify every section or item that has been changed in order for the attorney to prepare the information for the ballot.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Mr.
you all
Duran?
would have to approve all of that.
Mr. Duran?
On the section 3.10, I don't see anything in here regarding the Ethics Commission. I think that anytime the charges are brought against a council member or anybody in city council, it needs to go through the Ethics Commission first, because that's what we have them for, before we can also, and then also, I think this brings too much power of removal. I think that for removal from office, I think the people of Socorro need to decide that, not the city council, because they're the ones that elected them. I think that maybe we should put in there for a recall election, something in that, but the range, it just seems too broad. And I think that we need to include the Ethics Commission in this section.
Ms. Villalobos?
I agree. We should have the Ethics Commission in that section. As far as a recall, isn't that expensive? And I'm not sure what other charters say. I don't think I've read any charters out there that state, the recall for. What we're trying to do is give real teeth to what's, to certain scenarios, and but it's not saying that it's specifically this is will happen. It could be a range of things. I think that's what they're trying to say here. And I think they're allowing us to do the motions and resolutions through ordinances or whatnot.
Mr. Duran?
I think that we need to really look at this. Reason being is, let's say that somebody has, they is removed from office wrongfully. Because there's very little word in here like for a felony. If somebody is convicted, then they can be removed. But if there's just a charge and there's no, they can go to court and they can sue the city. And if they prove that they're right, Jim, you can probably step in anytime. I think that we are opening ourselves up to a lawsuit by by having it this vague.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Here's what I can tell the council. Recall and removal provisions are not uncommon. I mean, they are very common in municipal charters throughout the state, and which is not to say they are uncontroversial. Every time they come up, it can be extremely controversial, and I think we've experienced that here in Socorro. They're controversial whenever they come up elsewhere as well. There's really no way to get around that. It's not unheard of, but I can tell you it's fairly unusual to have a city charter that doesn't have any such provisions. Yeah, and you have some discretion. I mean, Mr. Duran, yeah, the council could certainly say, look, the standard for removal by council is felony conviction. And misdemeanor conviction doesn't count, and felony accusation doesn't count. That's something council could do. That's simply a policy decision the council needs to make.
I think that makes more sense, Jim, because then you have something to fall back on. He was convicted in a court of law, therefore we take the action to remove him, not just accused.
And I tend to agree with Mr. Duran. I think that instead of a range of things that we can do, I think we need to classify progressive discipline. If it's a simple mistake, rather than have all these options available, I think we need to say, if this is this type of mistake, then this is the kind of punishment and so on. That way a council member at least has some sort of, I guess, notice to see what kinds of behaviors are not going to be tolerated. And if it's a true mistake, they can go ahead and fix it before we look into applying all these things, including up to removal from office, which would be in the worst case scenario. Mr. Duran?
Yeah, I think progressive discipline, because you make a mistake and then let's just say that that you're not one of the favored council members. The others can just say, no, he's gone. This way, if we have progressive discipline, if there's a mistake made, first would be censure. Second, just go on, we can figure out how to do that. And then, have the felony conviction. It just depends on I don't know what, DWI or whatever. Those are cases for removal upon conviction. But I think this is too broad, and it gives, in the wrong hands, I think this would be a very, very bad part of the charter if we make it part of the charter, that it will give too much power, and if it's in the wrong hands, it can be abused.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Ms. Villalobos, you can go first.
I tend to agree. somewhat. Why don't, do you guys have an idea? Propose it, bring it, and we can wait to approve this. Because, yeah, you could be right. You could be right. I'm right in the middle with you guys, with, it does need to be more specific.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Council, we need to address the elephant in the room. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm just gonna tell it like I believe it is, okay? It's very funny how in today's society and in today's world, you have a president that we have, and they wanna kick him out even for a misdemeanor. And now we're talking that we want it to be a federal offense, a felony. So my whole thing is that you know as well, and that's what I want everybody in council to understand. You know as well how long it takes to go to court. And then you know how long trials take. So by the time somebody gets convicted, it might be 5 years, especially here in county of El Paso. You know, the courts are backed up years. So it doesn't matter. The thing is that how many times, steps? You want to talk about steps? How many times haven't we brought stuff to council because people are doing the same thing over and over and over? Oh, see if they're doing something wrong. And yet we still come back and bring it and bring it and bring it, and nothing happens. And you want to add more layers to that? Then why even have anything at all? Think about that. Think about that. Then why even have anything at all? You know, one of the things I will address is say this. It's already in the charter, and you want to strip it away. Why? So you can still get away from it? Then what's the point? Then what's the point? Then why are we talking? If we're going to add, oh, you got to be convicted. Oh, it's very convenient, isn't it? So those are the things that I want people to understand. I want people to understand that if we don't, this is what I'm saying. If we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard, I get what Mr. Rudan says. I understand what he says. Oh, in the wrong hands. But you know what? So what does that say about you, Ms. Villalobos? Are you in the wrong hands? Or what does that say about me? Or Mr. Nevares? Or Elia, the mayor? Or Mr. Ralph? What, are those are in the wrong hands? What does that say about us? I think that it's a good start. I think that the way it is, it's perfect, because this way we will be held to a higher standard. Because I'm sick and tired that I get emails, and all of us do, stop directing staff, stop doing this, stop doing that. And it's time and time again. That is what the thing is. That's why we have to put something with teeth in this, so that we can be well aware not to push the line.
Mr. Duran?
Okay, well, you know, that's why we created an ethics commission. Step number one, anything that, any charges that are brought to an ethics commission. And in this country, in our constitution, we are innocent until proven guilty. And you're trying to say that you and the council now want to become, the city council wants to be judge and jury before they have a chance to be heard in a court of law? No, I think that, there's people that will go and try to have somebody's ticket fixed. Okay, that's one item. Or they go and try to influence an item on an agenda by using staff. That's another way that there's abuse. Okay, so what we're gonna kick them off council because you went out there and you had a staff member doing what you wanted him to do? No, you bring it to the ethics commission. The ethics commission makes a recommendation to council, and then we have a step process. not just, you know, and I don't know where you're getting over and over and over again. I mean, if it's brought to council, then it's brought. But we bring it to, why did we even create an ethics commission? Just as a rubber stamp? No. These are people that we appoint that are going to hold us to a higher standard. The commission will say, make a recommendation. Then it is brought to council. We are not going to be judge, jury, and executioner. Everybody has rights in this country. Everybody has the right to be heard. And a lot of times, council makes their decision without hearing anybody. This is why we need to have a way to do this in steps. I think we need to incorporate it, the ethics commission into this portion and make steps on how we do it.
Mr. Perez?
I can see the different perspectives, but I think we need to make a clarification. Progressive discipline is usually for employees, and so we're not employees. That's one. We're elected officials. And secondly, in terms of the ethics commission, that's right. That's the function of the ethics commission is to hear out those things that are controversial and or behaviors that are controversial from the part of an elected official. Now, having said that, if we can go ahead and if we're going to have different levels, well then, if the offense is a misdemeanor, then it should be this. If it's a felony, it should be that. But the thing is that it should be done with the intent that that it has to be done in public view, because whether we like it or not, at that point where we owe it as far as accountability to the people that elected us as to what our conduct is. Secondly, in terms of what we do with the punishment, if you want to call it that, I think that it should. I don't think that if it's going to be about fines and stuff like that, I think that we should just have votes to either remove a person or not, or censure or not. But paying fines, I mean, that to me, we voted on it in the past, but I'm not so sure that I really like it, because I mean, it's like anything, and we've seen it before in with our citizens, that some of them have kept paying the violation and kept breaking the law, and so it doesn't do anything. It's either something that has to do with the public display of discipline, and I think that's where we need to go, having it done through an ethics council commission, and then, but ultimately, Mr. Duran, I respectfully disagree. It has to be the council's decision at the end, because it's an advisory. The ethics commission is an advisory board to the council, and it's ultimately the council's decision on how to act.
Mr. Rodriguez?
And I 100% agree with you, Mr. Perez. You put it very eloquently. I'm rub around the edges, but you put it precise. One of the things I want to stress out is that we are not judge and juror and executioner, like Mr. Ralph said, Mr. Duran. Why? Because we do investigations and they're brought to us and we take action. So it's not just because, oh, I hate him or she hates me or so and so. It's not that. We investigate and then it's brought to us. We take action on it. That's great. The process works. You know, just because you're at the other end at the moment doesn't mean that, oh my God, I got to do something just to get away from it. No, it's, you know what? We have to be held at a higher standard. You know, we have to. We are the last line of defense. Okay? Nothing is going to stop us from getting away. Look at what happened to prior councils. So that's what I'm trying to say is that, you know what? Look, whatever happened in this council happened, period. But what we're trying to say is that moving forward, we should keep it the way it is. Of course, I understand what Mr. Perez said is that, you know what? Yes, the Ethics Commission. I was the only one to appoint people at the Ethics Commission, and it was only one member, just like the Charter Commission as well. So first, okay, So don't say no first. And then no, nothing happened. Nothing happened. So then it's very difficult for us to put people in there and for them to show up. So I get it and understand. I think and I truly believe that if we want to put another layer on top of it, we go through the investigation, we send it out to the commission, and then after the commission, we have the last say. But we still have that authority. We still have that ability to remove people as well, because we are the last line of defense. We are held to a higher standard. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And if you want that, Mr. Perez, I back you 100%. We can put it, send it out to the commission. We still do investigations. We send them out to them and then come back. But none of this thing about misdemeanors and felonies and stuff like that, because we know that it takes forever. So I think that it's something that we have the ability and that we should move on with that.
Should we postpone or move on?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve, adding that we send it to the
Commission.
commission.
Second.
Ralph, Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
No.
Victor Perez,
I think that we're halfway on both sides in terms of having at least the commission look at it. Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
I agree with Mr. Perez, yes.
Do we have anything, the following three items?
No, ma'am. For the other items on the charter, you were supposed to review the section 3.12 to 3.16. Do you want to review it? And we'll do that next meeting?
Those are all Mr. Casiano's recommendations, correct?
Correct. And he has a couple of recommendations. If you want, we can write them down for you all to review, and then we can discuss them at the next meeting. Okay, we can do that.
And so we don't get behind, can we also add another little section?
What other sections would you like to add?
I'm sorry?
What other sections?
Just the next few sections so we don't get behind.
Okay. Will do.
Do we have a motion to delete?
Make a motion to delete.
Second.
And we're deleting items number 19, 20, and 21. Rene
Perez.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
And we adjourn at 7:22.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Stay safe.
Be
Good night,
safe.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Ms. Rodarte, call me.
Yes, right now? Oh,
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Victor, can you call me?